14 million tons of liquefied natural gas, valued at a staggering 40 billion Canadian dollars, departed from Kitimat port bound directly for North Asia. Not a single foot of U.S. pipeline was used. This moment marked not only Canada's first-ever direct LNG export, but also a hard-hitting jab at Washington's long-held dominance over North American energy. That very night, Prime Minister Mark Carney sent a message to his cabinet. The East-West Pipeline is now a national strategic project. The wheels were in motion, and there was no turning back. The White House was blindsided. Even though 97% of Canadian oil and gas still flowed south into the United States, Carney had just twisted the first major valve, signaling the beginning of a redirection in energy cash flow. If Ottawa eventually closes off the northern energy tap, who will pay America's fuel tap? And what's really at stake? Stay with us. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss out on critical political economic updates. Over a journey spanning half the globe, the vessel Gaslog Glasgow made it from Kitimat to South Korea in just 10 days, nearly twice as fast as the 20-day voyage U.S. LNG carriers must endure via the Panama Canal. And with each mile saved, American tariffs are rendered meaningless the moment the cargo is unloaded. But this isn't just about distance. Asia is the real prize. By 2025, the region is expected to consume 60% of the world's LNG imports. For every 3 LNG shipments landing in Tokyo, Seoul, or Shanghai, 2 now come from across the Pacific, right where Canada has planted its new energy foothold. Once seen as a satellite outlet for Houston, Canada has transformed into a high-speed fuel terminal parked on Asia's doorstep. At the heart of this seismic shift is the LNG Canada project, a $40 billion enterprise and the largest private investment in Canadian history. On June 30th, its first shipment, 14 million tons annually, set sail, marking the country's direct LNG debut without relying on U.S. infrastructure. Backing the venture is a powerful global consortium: Shell, Petronas, PetroChina, Mitsubishi, and Kogas. Together, they built the 670-kilometer coastal GasLink pipeline, carrying natural gas from British Columbia's Montney region to the coast, completely bypassing Washington. Train 1, now active, offers a 6.5 million ton capacity. Train 2 comes online next year, bringing the total to 14 million tons. And there are already plans to double that once the next phase is approved. Despite early hiccups that kept capacity at just 0.44 billion cubic feet per day, Reuters analysts expect full output by Q4 2025, just as storage hits capacity. Each new shipment undercuts U.S. benchmark Henry Hub prices, and Trump's old tariff tweets lose their sting with every wave. Carney now wields LNG as a political tool, turning energy supply into diplomatic leverage. Asia is hungry for fuel. Canada has it, and it's ready to ship. And now, in a twist of irony, the U.S. is lining up to buy gas from a country it once treated as merely a supplier. Every time Trump threatens a 100% tariff, the markets shrug. Why? Because oil prices are now influenced by Latitude 54, not Washington, D.C. Any threat of retaliation now rides the same tankers leaving Kitimat through a Pacific gateway that appears to be open for good. Carney recently told the Calgary Herald that a new pipeline from Alberta to the Pacific coast is very likely to be designated a national essential project, a label that cuts red tape and accelerates approvals from years to mere months. And this isn't just talk. Parliament has already passed the One Canadian Economy Act, creating a streamlined process to fast-track infrastructure and eliminate interprovincial trade barriers, ensuring smooth execution. Once this pipeline is complete, Alberta's crude will flow directly to Vancouver's port, bypassing the U.S. Midwest and East Coast refineries, which, as of April 2025, consume 3.75 million barrels per day of Canadian oil, according to the EIA. Now imagine the fallout. Storage tanks in cities like Chicago, Philadelphia, and Detroit, historically fed by Alberta's crude, could run dry. The U.S. would be forced to import that same oil by sea, incurring shipping and marine insurance costs far higher than current pipeline rates. Canada has learned from the drawn-out drama surrounding the Trans Mountain expansion, where legal battles from Indigenous groups nearly brought the project to a halt. This time, the Carney administration took a different approach, proactively engaging with Indigenous communities, negotiating benefits agreements, investing in local development, and honoring land rights before construction began. This build and reconcile strategy has effectively neutralized opposition, ensuring that once construction begins, this pipeline cannot be stopped. When completed, Vancouver will become North America's primary oil export hub, reducing the Gulf Coast and Mexico's energy infrastructure to supporting roles. According to the EIA, Canada hit a record in July 2024, exporting 4.3 million barrels per day to the U.S., right after the Trans Mountain expansion came online. But with this new pipeline, every drop of Alberta oil can now be loaded directly onto tankers headed for Asia or Latin America, completely bypassing the U.S. So, what about Trump's tariff threats? A proposed 25% tax on Canadian oil and gas might sound tough, but once Canada secures new buyers, those tweets become little more than empty bluster. Each time Carney announces infrastructure progress, the price of Western Canada's select oil dips, just enough to keep U.S. buyers interested, flooding the market and deflating tariff threats before they gain traction. In today's fragile global energy landscape, Carney's new pipeline is both an economic weapon and a symbol of Canada's evolving energy independence, diversified markets, secured routes, and sovereignty over supply. Once the Alberta-Vancouver link becomes fully operational, Washington's tariff threats will carry little weight because Canada will have direct ocean access, free from U.S. interference. Sure, the U.S. might be producing nearly 13.4 million barrels of crude oil daily, but that's only half the story. Its internal pipelines remain stuck in legal limbo, bogged down by environmental and indigenous lawsuits. Keystone XL, Mountain Valley Constitution, all championed by Trump, none are delivering oil to market. Now picture this. Canada redirects its crude westward. U.S. refineries in the Midwest, currently relying on 3.44 million barrels a day from Canada, will be forced to purchase heavier, pricier Middle Eastern oil, carrying a $3 per barrel premium. That's enough to raise U.S. gasoline production costs, especially in the Midwest. The EIA predicts an average price of $3.10 per gallon for Q3 2025, but if Canadian supply is rerouted, that figure could easily spike. Suddenly, American consumers, particularly in Illinois, Michigan, and Ohio, would feel the impact. A full tank could cost $5 to $8 more. Higher transportation costs would also drive up prices for groceries, clothing, and everyday essentials. And for rural and suburban families dependent on driving, non-essential travel might become unaffordable. Logistics companies would pass the cost along to consumers, meaning everyone pays more. So even if tariff threats are little more than a bluff, the consequences are real, not in Ottawa, but at a pump in every American household. Carney didn't choose August 1st as the negotiation deadline by accident. It's just enough time for pipeline construction to pass the point of no return, while keeping the White House guessing Canada's next move. Once those final steel joints are welded beneath the Rockies, no amount of Twitter diplomacy will undo the shift. But the story doesn't end there. If Canada opens another LNG terminal at Prince Rupert, the country's northwesternmost deepwater port, shipping times to Asia would shrink to just 8 days, nearly 3 times faster than LNG exports from Texas or Louisiana. At that point, North America wouldn't just be in a tariff war, it would be racing in a global energy logistics competition. Washington may scramble to build more pipelines, but remains bogged down by lawsuits and protests. Meanwhile, Ottawa has taken the lead, turning Shell, Petronas, and Mitsubishi into strategic global energy players, able to redirect supply chains across continents. So the real question becomes, how will the White House protect its access to affordable oil? Will it ease tariffs to preserve supply lines, or double down and risk pushing American fuel prices even higher? And more importantly, how will everyday Americans feel the squeeze? Let us know in the comments. What should Washington's next move be in this high-stakes energy chess match?